Welcome back. Georgette, before we left off, the issue of discrimination came up vis-a-vis the issue of grace. I like the way Peter picked it up from there. Discrimination in all this, how do we look at it? Where do we find the discrimination?
Okay, I'll just read to you, again, a contradiction. According to Wikipedia, we've got section 12.2 of chapter 5 of the Constitution of Ghana, which says, because I'll have to read it to you, it provides that every person in Ghana, whatever his race, place of origin, political opinion, color, religion, creed, or gender, shall be entitled to the fundamental human rights and freedoms of the individual contained in this chapter, but subject to respect for the rights and freedoms of others and for the public interest.
Right.
It also goes on to say that there is no legal recognition of same-sex couples under Ghanaian law. Ghanaian law does not protect persons from discrimination based on sexual orientation. Same-sex couples are not allowed to adopt children unless the child happens to be his or her biological child.
But that clause you quote could be interpreted to protect gay people. It doesn't say so specifically, but it does say that discrimination based on gender is unlawful. So if it is two men in a relationship, if one of them was a woman, they would not be doing anything illegal or contrary to law. So because they're two men, because they're both of the same gender, this could be interpreted by the courts as falling foul of the Constitution. Moreover, the African Charter, which I mentioned previously, which Ghana has signed, is very unequivocal, very clear that all discrimination is prohibited. And that has force of law in Ghana because Ghana has signed that African Charter.
Every law has its spirit and the letter of it. And laws are not made in a vacuum. The society, one way or the other, as is generally known, frowns on that. Then we have the issue of, we have signed the charter. Do we then throw away our cultural values? That is the question that most Ghanaians are asking. And it then becomes sort of a hypocritical thing where you think that one way you say this and the other way you say that. But Ghanaians are also very specific about the cultures they have inherited.
I understand and respect that entirely. But I would ask the people of Ghana to recognise where these anti-gay cultural values came from. They were not existing in Ghanaian society prior to the advent of British colonialism. It was the colonialists and the Christian missionaries who brought this ideology of anti-homosexuality to Ghana. And now, of course, it has been internalized and embraced by Ghanaians, but it's not an authentic African or national Ghanaian value.
Pastor, I'll take you back into the church. Do you have people expressing their sexual orientation in church? How do you handle that?
Well, as I was saying, the Bible said Jesus Christ came.
Pastor, let me just briefly go to Ghana now. I have one Ghanaian, Kwesi, on the line. Kwesi has expressed his sexual orientation as a gay person. Kwesi, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us. Your orientation, as I've mentioned, is that you're a gay person. Were you born with it, or you learned it as a habit?
No, I didn't learn. I feel absolutely nothing for the opposite sex. So.
You don't feel for a woman at all?
Nah, I feel nothing for ladies or females, actually. Yeah.
Now, in the Ghanaian society, how are you looked at as? Do people look at you as an outcast, somebody who doesn't conform to the norms?
Yeah, in Ghana, they really if they know you are gay, like they will stigmatize you and stuff. They will really because me, I've been my father has they knew I was gay because I was caught in the acting school back in high school, so they had to even dismiss me and the other guy in school. So currently, I'm not in school. I've left home because my father don't want me to be at home because again he sees me as an abomination. No, I don't know. So I'm just because I just saw nothing for females. That's me. I don't know, but I learned they say it's in the teens or something. I don't know, but when I see females, I feel absolutely nothing for females. And in Ghana, they will really stigmatize you if only they know you are one. If they know you are one, you're in big trouble.
So do you hide to do that?
Sorry?
Do you hide to express your orientation?
Do I what?
Do you hide your orientation from the general public, or your friends do know that, except that your parents have neglected you?
The only people who knows I'm gay is my mom and dad. Because when the incident happened, they were called to the school, so and they discussed whether we should be handed over to the police or they should let us go scot-free. Finally, they came to a conclusion that we are a bit young. At that time, I was 18 years, so they told us we are a bit young, so they will just let us go. One condition that they will indefinitely suspend us. That means we will not be coming back to the school again. So that was when my parents knew about it. But I haven't told anybody else except the other guy. That was my former partner. That was the only one who he and my parents know I'm gay. Apart from them, no one knows.
What do you want to see happen concerning your situation in Ghana?
What do I want
to see happen in Ghana concerning your situation? Do you think that you should be defended?
Bad here. I think like the government should really like accept this legality of this gay thing in Ghana, because currently it has been the topic in town. Currently,
right.
There's been a bit we just need our freedom, because the way they're treating us is not fair at all. It's not fair. This is us. We can't change. There's no way we can change. Even now that it's not legalized in Ghana, we still do it. So what's the essence in, like, we still do it, but just that if you're caught in the act, you'll be sent to prison.
Well, Kwesi, thank you very much for sharing your experience with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you too for calling us. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Well, Reverend, I was asking, when you have people expressing such orientation in the church, how is the person handled? Kwesi just told us the stigmatization in the society.
Exactly. You see, as I said before, earlier on, I did say that trying to correct a wrong with another wrong is also in itself not right. Because if people are being criminalized, persecuted, attacked, or even by law, sent to prison and all that, it doesn't seem right in itself as well. Because, as I gave an example, when this woman was caught in the sin, breaking the law of God, God himself pardoned her. You see, the ethos of the gospel is compassion, love. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish. It's God sent Jesus to save man with compassion and with love. Opinion, you think that if someone is expressing this kind of sexual orientation in the church, our duty is not to criminalize the person. Our duty is not to judge the person, because Jesus himself said not to judge.
Do you think we should change Section 104 of our Criminal Offences Act?
Do I think
we should change the law? Because at the moment it criminalizes it.
It criminalizes it.
Would you campaign that we change it?
Well, I stand from the point of view of God. I'm saying that God will treat a person with compassion. But at the same time, God does not also approve of the act. You understand what I'm saying? Let me read Romans chapter 1 verse 27. The actual problem with gay and lesbian practices. Romans chapter 1 verse 27 says that, and likewise also the men, leaving the natural use of the woman, burn in their lust one toward another. Men with men, working that which is unseemly, and receiving in themselves that recompense of their error, which was meat. So even here from this scripture, we see that homosexual practices in itself is sinful. It's a sin.
But do you think it should be a crime? Should it be a crime under Ghanaian law for consenting adults in private to have a loving, stable relationship?
Yeah, I would not approve the fact that people should be criminalized and be punished the point that people are thrown are treated as
my
outcasts.
point again is, do we have to change the law?
Well, if we are going to change the law according to suit the Bible standards, I agree.
Well, the issue of this in the church takes a global dimension. Recently, the Pope says that he's going to retire, and one of the frontliners, Cardinal Tatchell, who's a Ghanaian, also has one way or the other even defended the issue in Uganda, for instance. In the church, is that a place we should start our campaigning from? If it is that we will have to look at the decriminalizing of an act of sexual orientation. Peter?
Well, I think any change in the law has to come from within Ghana. The people of Ghana have to make that decision. It's not from me or any outsider. It has to come from within. And I would hope that the people of Ghana would be driven by a sense of compassion and care for fellow human beings who happen to be gay. And hearing that story from that young man, the pain and suffering of being excluded from his own family, having to hide his sexuality, this causes incredible emotional and psychological stress and damage to individuals. It causes real human misery. And also, of course, it's bad for Ghana's economy. Why is it that so many gay and lesbian Ghanaians are living in London and other British cities? It's because they don't feel safe and comfortable in Ghana. And these are some of the brightest, most intelligent and talented Ghanaian people. They've left the country. And that's a loss to the Ghanaian economy. If those people had a safe place in Ghana where they could be accepted and weren't being criminalised, they'd probably stay. And that would strengthen the Ghanaian economy and stop this brain drain of talented lesbian and gay Ghanaians to Britain, the United States and other countries.
In your experience, do you think that in the political circles people are sort of apprehensive of certain things? That is why they come out to really say, we don't approve of it, but behind the scenes, they consult and even connive with people who are gay and lesbians?
I think there are a lot of people, I know there are a lot of people in quite high positions in Ghanaian society who privately believe that the law should change, that criminalising people for consenting, loving relationships is fundamentally wrong. You're right. They're afraid to say so because they fear the backlash. And I'm sure you can say more about that.
Are they afraid?
Politicians always want votes, and therefore they have to tread very cautiously.
Then how do we handle this? Do we have to accept it and deal with the stigma, or be bold enough to say, it's just not our culture, so let's do away with it? Because like it or not, there are stories of these things happening in the secondary schools, in various societies, in the affluent societies in our country and everything. It's happening. So what do we do? How do we do away with the apparent hypocrisy?
Well, at the moment, I don't live in Ghana, but I did go to Wesley Girls High School, which is a same-sex boarding school. And this was in the 70s, early 70s. And as far as I know, same-sex boarding schools started in the 60s in Ghana. Okay. And we had rules, we had strict rules that said if the teachers found 4 legs in one bed, suspension, people could even get expelled. But we heard a lot of rumors about some of the senior girls, even some of the teachers, involving themselves in same-sex relationships. And at the time, what we were told was, if it happened at school, it was just experimenting or hormones flying around. But if it happened after a person left school, by then they'll be over 18 because we went on up until 6th form. So if it happened after school, then that meant that they were lesbian. But then, because people did it underground, in that they did it in hiding, some went off and got married. So we don't really know the statistics. I've read somewhere that there are about 8,000 or approximately 8,000 gays in Ghana, but then who's counting? So as far as I'm concerned, I think unless there's a test case, unless some politicians are bold enough to come out and say, okay, let's debate this, maybe in parliament or whatever, and let's look at the modern day culture, because our culture itself is very westernized. We were colonized by the British. We drink English tea. We speak English. We do
you have
a lot
English
of things.
Breakfast.
Yes, we do a lot of things like the English people. So if we sit down and say or pretend that it's not happening, I think it's just going to go further underground. And my concern really is pedophilia. That is my concern. my concern also is perhaps they need to consider safe-sex methods, not just gays and lesbians, but heterosexuals as well. Because you have in some places 25% HIV in Ghana, because there's no random testing, there's no free testing. So those are my concerns. But apart from that, I personally believe that what people do in the privacy of their homes, we have to be very careful, because at the moment, even some married couples we hear are practicing anal sex. So what's the difference?
Viewers and callers can join us on the phone 0207-501-7701, 0207-501-7701. Or you can email us at focusonghana@voxafrica.com, or visit our Facebook page, Focus on Ghana. You can come in with your questions, contributions, and we have Peter, Georgette, and Pastor Gabriel Sarpong here to address that issue. Peter, let me look at same-sex marriages. It has become one of the focal points of discussion. You have a partner, same-sex partner, yes. You do it underground or what? But taking it up and legalizing it, going to the registry to register and all that, is anything wrong with that?
I think we need to focus on the fact that same-sex relationships are all about love, just like opposite-sex relationships. It's about two people who love each other. And I have African friends, some living in Britain, some living in Africa, who have been in a same-sex relationship in 15, 20, and in one case, 32 years. Their love is just as real as the love between a man and a woman. They are committed to each other, they're in a stable, loving relationship. I think they should have the right to be able to marry each other on exactly the same basis.
The issue of procreation comes in.
Well, of course, some heterosexual couples don't want to have children, or they're infertile and they can't have children. But we don't ban them from getting married. We say that marriage is first and foremost about love and commitment. Okay. And I think if you believe that, if you believe in marriage, you should surely welcome the fact that gay people want to get married too. It actually strengthens marriage, it doesn't undermine it.
The pastors don't want to bless that.
Yes, this is where I disagree with you, Peter. Because from Romans chapter 1, verse 27, as I read, the Bible does not call this kind of relationship love. The Bible uses the word lust. Lust is not the same as love. Lust, according to the Bible definition, is the desire, the craving, the deep desire, craving for something which is not permitted by God's laws.
The argument then would be, in the definition of marriage, the two coming together to become one, and also to procreate, and of course establish families as by extension. Now, a male person thinks that he loves another male person. They can establish the family, create the stability in the society. Then the question is, what's wrong with that?
So again, I mean, male person comes with a male person. How do they procreate?
Well, they could foster or adopt a child. They could have a child by surrogacy, from a surrogacy service or from a friend.
Peter, sorry to interrupt you, Peter. Let me just pick up a phone call and we'll come back to you. Hello, good evening, caller. Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining us. Your name and your contribution, please.
My name is Blessing Mandy, and I'm calling from Lewisham, London.
Yes, Blessing.
What I want to say is, I agree to your panels. What I want to say is, if we say that Ghana is a Christian country, and then if somebody is gay or lesbian, why can't we accept them for who they are? God in the Bible, the pastor, the reverend just read it. God is love. If you love me, you need to accept who I am. You can't criticize me negatively or judge me. Judgment belongs to God. Even in the Bible, like the man of God read, it's not saying that we should punish them or we should disown them or we should do whatever that we are saying we want to do to them. It is up to God to do whatever thing that he wants to do with them. There are so many gays and lesbians that are so loving and caring. We have straight people that can't even do what they do. To me personally, I think Ghana, if you don't want to make a law that they just read it that it's criminal to do it in Ghana, so it's not right to do that thing in Ghana. So why can't we discuss it?
Blessing, thank you very much for your contribution.
We need to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you too. Thank you for your contribution. A point made there. Well, Peter, you were on the point when I came in with the caller. The issue of procreation becomes one pertinent point that has to be looked at. And naturally, a man and a man can't have children unless they adapt. Do you look at that as really part of the family stabilization and not having the natural fuel of breastfeeding, bearing a baby and all that?
Well, of course, as I said, many heterosexual couples, many men and women, marry but don't have children, either by choice or because they're infertile. And we respect and validate their love and their right to marry. So I think the issue of children is a separate one. Most gay and lesbian couples do not have children, do not want children, but they do love each other. And it's not about lust, it's about love. It's about, first and foremost, about a psychological, emotional feeling that they love this person, are committed to them, and want to spend their life with them. And I think from a Christian point of view and from a wider social point of view, love is a social virtue and good. It's good for the individuals, it's good for society. Therefore, society should encourage love by giving gay and lesbian couples the option of getting married if they wish.
Focus on Ghana takes another break. We'll be right back.